As crafters and creators, I feel like we're always trying to learn new things. And something that I've been interested in learning about is sublimation. And thank you to Hiipoo for sponsoring today's video, because I'm going to show you what I've learned along the way about sublimation. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Jess, and I loved creating home decor on a budget. And if you do too, then let's get started. First off, some of you may be wondering, what is sublimation? Sublimation printing is a process of printing onto a special sheet of sublimation paper and then heat transferring that image onto a blank. There are a few things that you need to get started with sublimation. So first off, you need a dedicated sublimation printer. So you need a tank style printer where you fill the tank up with sublimation ink rather than the ink that the printer comes with. And it is recommended that you use a new printer for this rather than a printer that had regular ink in it to start. And then you'll also need some sublimation ink, which today I'm going to be using the ink from Hiipoo, and the sublimation paper is also from Hiipoo. And then you'll need some sort of easy press or heat press. I'm going to be using my Cricut easy press today, and then some blanks to transfer your images to. Now, since I love to shop at the Dollar Tree, I bought some wooden blanks from there, and that's what I'm going to be using for my images. Setting up the printer for sublimation was really easy. You just have to open the front where you put in the ink, and like I said, you want to make sure you're not using the ink that comes with the printer. You want to only use sublimation ink. And then you just have to lift up the little topper that's on each color of ink, and the Hiipoo ink makes it really easy because the top of the bottle is already ready for the printer. So you just turn the bottle upside down over the proper color and let gravity do the work. You don't want to squeeze the bottle or shake it or anything. Just let gravity pull that ink into the tank. And you want to make sure that you're using the proper color for each tank. After the tanks are full of ink, then you can go to the Epson website and it will walk you through setting up the printer to connect to your Wi-Fi. And then once it's all connected, it'll print out the test sheet so that you can make sure that all the ink and margins and all that are calibrated correctly. Since the projects I'm doing today are mostly going to be on wood, I decided to do some test pieces first, and I wanted to show you what I did to prep the pieces. So I'm using these giant craft sticks from Walmart, and I left one blank. That's why it says regular. Another one, I'm going to add 2 coats of polycrylic. Another one, I'm going to paint first with chalk paint, then do 2 coats of polycrylic. Then another one, I'm going to use a thermal laminating sheet on the stick. And then the last one, I'm going to paint it and then do the thermal laminating sheet over it. If you decide you don't want to go through all of the prep work it takes to do the sublimation blanks, you can also go to Amazon and just search sublimation blanks, and they have a ton to pick from. At the end of the video, I'm going to show you, I did end up ordering 2 sublimation blanks from Amazon, and I'll show you what I made out of those at the end of the video. I wanted to show the difference in the craft sticks between not painting and painting them, because when you sublimate onto wood, if you don't have a painted surface, some of that wood grain will show through the print. Now, whenever I say that I have polycrylic on the sticks, this is what I'm using. I bought this at Lowe's, and this has a clear satin finish, so it's not quite as shiny as the thermal laminating sheet. So you can see here, this is with 2 coats of polycrylic on the wood stick, and these are the thermal laminating sheets that I was talking about. I already had these on hand because I do have a laminator, but they're fairly inexpensive and you can buy them at Walmart. And they also come in smaller sizes. If you don't think that you'll be doing larger projects that you want the big sheets, you can buy the smaller ones as well. I'll be showing you a little bit later how I got the thermal laminating sheet to adhere to the project that I did. And you can see the craft stick with the thermal laminating sheet is a lot shinier than the craft stick that had just the polycrylic coats on it. And then you can see the difference in the colors and the patterns with the painted sticks versus just the natural wood. On the painted sticks, I used a chalk paint. It was slightly off-white. It's the Plaster Color by Waverly. So the colors came out a lot brighter than they did on the natural wood. For the images you're going to use on your projects for sublimation, there's a few things that you have to remember when you're printing them out. First of all, this image I created using Canva. You can use any of the sort of graphic design apps that you're familiar with, or you can search the internet for free printables, or you can even look for printables to buy on Etsy, or you can even use some of your own photographs. So one of the main things that you want to make sure that is set on your printer whenever you go to print this out is that the design itself has to be mirrored. So when I go into my print settings, if I click on more settings, then there'll be another tab that I can go to, and then I'll just go down to the little box that says mirror image, and I make sure that that box is checked so that when it prints out, it's backwards from the original image. A few other things you'll need are some butcher paper or parchment paper or craft paper, and that's just to help protect your surface and the things that you'll be pressing. And then this isn't necessary, but it does come in handy. This heat resistant tape is really nice to help hold your images in place on the blanks. I picked up one of these wooden trays from the Dollar Tree, and I love these ones because the back is one solid piece with no lips or edges around the bottom, so it's really easy to decorate the bottom of these trays. So for this project, I decided to try out one of the thermal laminating sheets, and you can see I laid my heat press pad down and then a piece of that butcher paper, and then I cut a piece of the thermal laminating sheet a little bit bigger than the tray itself. And then you can see I almost messed up here because I put my easy press right on top of the laminating sheet, and I didn't put another piece of paper down, but luckily I caught it pretty quickly, so then I was able to put another piece of paper over that before I got started. And on this tray, I did give it one coat of the chalk paint before I put the laminating sheet on. So I have my easy press set to 385 degrees, and I let it sit on for about 30 seconds. And when you're doing these sublimation projects, make sure you let these things cool down a lot before you start to handle them, or get some heat-proof gloves because you'll definitely burn yourself if you're not careful. After my tray was all cooled down, I just took my utility knife and I ran it along the edges to cut off the excess thermal laminating sheet. This was the image that I created for this tray, and you can see here that I did remember to mirror it before I printed it out. And another thing I want to mention, with the Hiipoo sublimation paper, they actually have a watermark on the side that you don't print on. So the side that you're going to print on is completely blank, and then the back side has little watermarks all over it, and that way you know which way you need to feed it into the printer. So I created this printable in Canva, like I mentioned before, and I did size it to fit this tray. I think I made it about 1/4 of an inch larger all the way around. So I decided to cut the excess paper off just to make it easier to put on my tray. So I laid it down and I tried to center it as best as I could. You can see through the paper a little, so it does help get it centered. And then I'm going to use that heat resistant tape, and I just put one piece on each side just to make sure that that piece of printable doesn't slide around once I get the heat press on top of it. Now, to transfer the image, I made sure that I covered up my project with a piece of that butcher paper, and I'm setting my heat press to 385 degrees, and I did put, I would say, medium pressure. I really don't know what that means. I would say light pressure is just the weight of the machine, and then medium pressure is just the weight of your arms on top of it. So I did do that for 30 seconds, and then I checked the image and I decided to go for another 30 seconds because I felt like not quite all of the ink had gone onto the tray. I had to put on my patient pants and let this thing cool down for a good while before I could take the tape off safely. And there it is. Isn't that so cool? I was so excited when I pulled that paper off. I just think that looks so neat, and I really love the shiny finish that thermal pouch gives it. To finish off this piece, I used some painter's tape on the top of the tray. Well, technically it's the bottom of the tray, but it's the top now. And then I used a baby wipe to apply some of the Antique Wax by Waverly. Another wood blank that I wanted to try using from the Dollar Tree are these 4 compartment divided containers. So for this one, I gave the backside of the container 1 coat of white chalk paint, and then I gave it 2 coats of the polycrylic. Sublimating onto a wood blank with polycrylic is about the same as the laminate sheets. I just flipped my image over and used the heat transfer tape to hold it in place. And then I used my easy press again to transfer the image onto the wood blank. After my piece had cooled down, I peeled off the tape and revealed my image. Now, the biggest difference between the laminate sheets and the polyacrylic is with the polyacrylic, there's going to be some paper residue left behind, and that's okay. That's normal. All you have to do is get a wet cloth and gently wipe it away, and it'll just take off any of that extra paper that might have stuck to the design. You don't have to scrub it or use any kind of coarse scrubbing sponge or anything. I'm just using a regular wet washcloth, and it wiped off all of that paper to reveal the image that I created. And it looks a lot different than the thermal laminating sheet too, because it has more of a matte finish. That polycrylic is a clear satin, so there's a little shine to it, but it really looks pretty, and I love the watercolor look it gives this tray. Make sure you check out the description box below the video. I have all of the sublimation products that I used today linked below, and all of the printables I made I have linked as Google Docs that you can have for free to use in your own projects. So to decorate up this tray, I decided to keep it simple because I really wanted that print to be the star of the show. I took some of this Farmhouse style ribbon that I had got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use that as the hanger for this because I wanted to hang this up, but you could use it as a freestanding piece too. And I just hot glued one end into the center of the top box, and I cut the other end into a point so that it would make it easier to fish these wood beads through. And I only put 2 beads on. I just wanted one on each side of the ribbon, just to act as a little extra embellishment for the hanger. Once I had both of the beads strung onto the ribbon, I just needed to hot glue the other side of the ribbon to the center of the other top section. Let me know in the comments which you like better so far, the thermal laminate or the polycrylic. I think I like the polycrylic a little more. When I saw these little dry erase easels at the Dollar Tree, I was really intrigued because of the coating that's already on them. I suspected I would be able to sublimate right onto them. So I didn't do anything to this easel to prep it because you can see it already has that shiny coating. It already kind of looked to me like it had a layer of polycrylic or some kind of plastic on it that would easily be sublimated onto. So I created another printable, and like I said, they're all linked in the description box below for you. They're all for free too. And this process was the same. I just taped it to my piece and then used my heat press to transfer the image. I let it cool down completely and pulled my paper away, and it worked. It transferred right onto this little dry erase easel, and I think it is so cute. I left a little space at the top because I knew I wanted to add a bow. So I had this Easter ribbon in my stash. I'm not really sure where I got this from. I know it's not from the Dollar Tree. I want to say maybe it's from Hobby Lobby. And I just created a simple bow, and I thought the color in this ribbon matched really well with the one color bunny peep that's on the sign. And I struggled with this bow way longer than what I should have. So it was just a really simple bow, but I don't know why it took me a while to get it all put together. I just created one loop, hot glued it together, and then I used another piece of ribbon to wrap around the center of the bow, but I used the back side of the ribbon so that it was just the solid blue color. And then I created some tails with another piece of ribbon and glued those onto the back. Now the reason I did the bow that way instead of just tying it is because I knew I needed to have those tails in a certain position so that they wouldn't cover up anything on the sign. And then after I hot glued it to the sign, then I was able to trim my tails down to the right length. I think this is a really cute idea, and I think this would make a really fun way to do like a dinner party or a tea party. If you wanted to personalize an easel for each one of your guests, it could either have their name on it or an initial from their last name, anything like that to make it personal. And for $1.25, I think it looks so good. I mentioned earlier that I bought some sublimation blanks from Amazon, and these are the ones I decided to try. I bought a few zipper pouches and some earring blanks, which were really fun. And this is a great way to personalize gifts, especially because Mother's Day is just right around the corner, and so is Easter, and I know we all like to give handmade gifts to the special people in our lives. I hope you had fun learning about sublimation with me today. I know this video was a little different from how I normally do it, but I think it's fun to try new things once in a while. Thank you again to Hiipoo for sponsoring this video. Make sure you check out the description box. I have everything linked down there that you would need to get started with sublimation, and all of the printables are down there as well. Thanks for hanging out and learning with me today. I left some of my favorite videos on this screen. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.